Getting hired can be a very stressful process, trying to get your resume, your portfolio, and your application ready to go before you go into a job interview. It can often feel overwhelming. So today, I'm going to give you the steps you need to go into an interview feeling prepared and have all the knowledge you need to go in there feeling prepared and ready to take on the challenge. Now, this is The Secret Guide to Getting Hired by Kyle Venberg. Now, throughout this whole project for me, it involved many different steps, and I got most of my information from online research, from interviews, and also from survey results gathered from my school that I go to. Just to establish some ethos, I contacted many small and large businesses so I could see what their hiring processes consisted of, so I could see what the interview process looked like for a majority of businesses. For example, I contacted Best Buy, Apple, Lifetime Fitness, Chipotle, the Home Depot, Ardent Mills, and Great Beginnings Cafe. Now, throughout this whole process, there are three overarching themes that I'm going to be sharing. Some common misconceptions that one might have, the interview process as a whole, and some general tips for success. So this is kind of the roadmap that we're going to venture down today. Now, we're going to be following this guy named Mike, and Mike knows absolutely nothing about the job interview process. So he asked this guy named Steve, who knows basically everything there is to know about what the job interview process consists of. Now, there's two different paths you can take. There's the wrong way and there's the right way. So let's start down the wrong way first so you know what to avoid when going in for that job interview. So let's begin with some common misconceptions to begin part one. Now, throughout most of my sections inside of this presentation, we have three different subsections. One would be the pre-interview, second would be during the interview, and then third would be the post-interview process. Now, just to preface this whole presentation, come in with kind of an open mind because information is constantly changing. So some things you know about the interview process could be outdated. So information inside of this presentation is as up to date as it can. I try to get the most up to date information because that always is the best, so you're prepared to go in for an interview. Now, this part heavily relies on the survey that I took for two of the different classes in my school. Now, to begin, the first question I asked both of these classes were, is a resume absolutely necessary for every type of job? And 52% of who took the survey said, yes, it is. You need a resume for every type of job you apply to. And that is actually not true. Resumes are not necessary for all types of interviews. When I contacted Chipotle, I got in touch with Victoria Campbell, and she's a representative who knows a lot about the job interview process and helped me with my research. And she said, at Chipotle restaurants, resumes are not needed, but it is always a good idea. So make sure to check on the business you're applying to, but for the most part of retail positions or restaurant positions, resumes aren't needed, but it's always a good idea so you stand out against the competition. But on the corporate side of things, LinkedIn profiles and resumes are needed because it tells more about yourself, because it's more of it might be like a longer position. You might stay in that position for a longer time than at restaurants, and they just want to make sure that you're the right fit. But for either part, resumes are a good idea for restaurants, but in corporate, they are needed. Now, the second question I asked during the survey was, how important is response time? And I got quite a few answers. Some people said, yeah, it's kind of important, and some said, yeah, it's definitely important. But the real answer to this is it sits right at the 4 or 5 mark on this presentation slide right here, because response time is actually pretty important to remember when you're answering questions. Now, it responds primarily to things, though. It makes you appear inept, and responding faster but less accurately is a case. But appearing inept, that means having or showing no skill, or you might appear clumsy. So if you answer a question too slowly, you might think to yourself that you might appear clumsy or inept, like the definition says here. But some people say I might respond faster and that's better. But sometimes if you respond too quickly, you might appear less accurately. So you want to find that happy medium where you respond fast, but you also respond accurately. Now, the third question or a third example of that survey was, what do you do after that interview? And a lot of the individuals who took the survey said that you contact the business once, and if you don't hear back from them, don't contact them ever again. But that is definitely not true. What you want to do is you want to be like the 26% of this pie here, and you want to visit and make a personal visit. So always follow up with a hiring manager. Said best by Robert Schoen from Great Beginnings Cafe. He said, don't wait, make a personal visit. So let's say you go for a job and you're done with the interview. You always want to make sure to go personally to the storefront or the business and make that personal connection. Just say, hi, my name's so-and-so, and I just had an interview, so they know that you're very interested in that position. But if you apply for a position that's not where you live, maybe make a phone call or write an email to them. So now let's move on to part 2, which deals with the actual interview process. So now let's venture away from the wrong way and go on over to the right way. So we are going to be like this guy, and we're going to go down the right way and learn the stuff that you should keep in mind instead of going to the wrong stuff. So let's learn the right things. Now, this part heavily relies on research and the interviews I conducted with the businesses. So today I'm going to focus more on the retail side of job interviews, but there are also the corporate side of things. But I mean, for a lot of us my age and similar, retail is really important. If you do have questions on corporate interviews, just let me know in my portfolio or write an email to me. I'd be happy to help you out. But for the retail side of interviews, we're going to focus again on the pre-interview, during the interview, and post-interview. So let's begin with the pre-interview process. So what you want to do is research and learn about what the company is about. So you want to make sure you find that business that you're going to be passionate about working, go in there motivated and have a really fun time. So you want to make sure you go online and apply. Most businesses have an online application process, but if they don't, just grab a paper application. Make sure to check on that before you go on. So it might be online, it might be paper. So just double check on that. And so you want to do is you want to apply online, but otherwise fill it out if it's not online. And then what you want to do is you want to make sure your resume is all good and ready to go if you are submitting one. Just like I said before, it's not necessary for every type of job, but it definitely makes you stand out against the other competition. Now, said best by Jennifer Harnish from Ardent Mills, she talked more about the resume side of things. So let's say you're going to become a graphic designer or a musician or something that involves art of some kind. Maybe a more appealing resume, more visually appealing resume is going to be better. But if you're going to be a supervisor, a finance, or a medical role, it's not that important for visual appeal. But I mean, for most positions, you can be as creative as you want. It doesn't hurt usually. So just be more creative if you are going to go into graphic design. But if you are going to be a finance or medical role, that's not as important for you. So now let's talk about during the interview. So presentation and attitude are some of the most important things that you should remember going into an interview. So make sure you look your best and you go in there with a smile and have a really optimistic and positive attitude. Said best by Greg from Home Depot. He's like, definitely go back to the basics. First impressions, posture, be alert and ready to answer, be professional, and it's better to be overdressed. And then eye contact also shows confidence. So make sure to definitely pay attention to those things, but also first impressions are very, very, very important. So what that means is when you go into an interview, go in there with your best attitude, smile, have a strong handshake, and be ready to go on with the interview. Also, Michael from Apple said, don't try to be anyone you are not. Be comfortable with who you are, be yourself, be honest, and have fun. That's something that a lot of people sometimes overlook. You're supposed to go in there and have a lot of fun. And then Jennifer Harnish from Art Mills said again, if an interview sometimes doesn't go your way, or you don't get hired, or it just doesn't go the way you were expecting, make sure to use every interview as a learning experience. Sometimes it can be overwhelming to go into an interview, but take away one thing to reflect on. That's very important. Just because if something doesn't go the way you anticipated, just take one thing away so you can apply it to future job interviews that may come up. And then one really important thing too, said by Albert from Best Buy, is like, you get an hour for them to learn about you. Leave them with something. So it's not a one-sided conversation. It's between you and the hiring manager and the hiring manager and you. So make sure to communicate both ways. Ask them questions as well. And now let's talk about the post-interview process. Now, make sure to give the business time to decide and think about how the interview went. Don't call back 20 minutes after the interview and say, hey, I just applied for this job. Can you tell me how my interview was? Just give them some time to actually decide. So then what you want to do is make a personal visit or write an email or get on the phone and contact them, just because that does show that you are really interested in that position. And just to note, you may be called back for more interviews as well. So be ready for those, and congratulations if you get more interviews as well. I mean, not every job does have multiple, but I mean, sometimes you do, which is great. Now, here are some general tips for success. So here are some common interview questions that may be asked during the interview. So a couple of them can be, can you tell me a little bit about yourself? Some might be, why should we hire you? Do you have any questions for us? What do you know about the company? And what best qualifies you for the position? So there's a lot of questions here, but if you want to refer back to them, make sure to check out the full presentation slides on my portfolio. But also, if you want to get specific questions that other people have experienced at a job interview for the certain company you are applying to, a website called Glassdoor is available for you to check out as well. And then some questions may be fun, like, what do you do for fun? I mean, interviews can be really entertaining, so just go in there and have a lot of fun. And what if you don't know an answer to a question? This is really common, and it can be very scary when you go into an interview. So if you don't know the answer to something right away, make sure to answer it to the best of your ability, and also ask for clarifications if need be. So just try to answer the questions to the best of your ability, and be honest and have integrity when you don't know a question. Just answer it to the best of your ability. And make sure you ask questions to the hiring manager too. Just like I said earlier, it's not a one-sided conversation. So just make sure you have that interaction with them, because you're trying to find if that position is right for you, and the hiring manager is making sure that position is good for the company as well. And overall, just be yourself and accurately describe your abilities and have fun. So go into those interviews and have just a lot of fun, and just be yourself. So be like Mike, who just got the job. He's super excited. He used all the tips that Steve gave him to get this job. Just go in there, have a lot of fun, and be honest, and do the best that you can. So Steve Roxy gave him all the tips that he knew to get Mike hired. So be like Mike, go out there, do your best, and use these tips to your benefit so you can have the best experience when trying to get hired at the business that you would like to get hired at. So this was the Secret Guide to Getting Hired by Kyle Venberg. Thank you so much for listening to this presentation, and if you do have any questions at all, make sure to let me know by emailing me directly, and my contact information is on my portfolio. And as well, feel free to drop a comment down below if you do have questions. I'll be active over here on the YouTube side as well. Thank you guys so much for watching again, and feel free to ask questions. All right, good luck getting hired. Here are the tips that you need for getting hired. All right, thanks again for watching, and have a good rest of your day.